Wait, do you ever get disappointed when you're showing someone something for the first time and you really want them to get it? And
No,
they
not
don't?
at all. I think
Yes.
Oh.
Matt knew exactly where I was
Absolutely.
going with that question.
I'm clearly an Eeyore.
I'm probably Rue.
I'm a Christopher Robin with a poo rising.
And then I get in a canoe and I'm like, Clairs don't like canoes.
No, they don't.
I'm afraid of this lake.
That's exactly what it was.
Ow.
It was a beautiful moment in our friendship. I was
literally in the middle of getting hers up and down the
Pathetic.
stairs. Ow. I was like, I'm trying to get my hair done. I'm like, ah.
I don't think that's an accurate representation of my owl.
Well, you were in such pain you couldn't see clearly. So,
Trauma.
Thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. I'm Matt Young. I'm a theater educator and a parent. And ever since I lost my father to cancer, I have been mildly obsessed with death. This is my last will and testament. Dr. Seuss once said, "You know you're in love when you can't fall asleep because reality is finally better than your dreams." Today's episode is all about the greatest loves. Happy New Year, everybody. It's good to be back, and I am excited to share this episode. It is an exciting, fun episode all about the greatest loves. I had a list of 30 of the greatest loves from TV, movies, mythology, real life, fiction, all of that stuff. And I swear to God, our conversation got focused in on just like 3 different couples and stuff like that. But we talk a lot about our own experience and things. So this is a special episode because I finally got one of my closest friends, Sally Rose Zuckert, to come in here and talk about the greatest loves. As you know, we did Eurydice together. We are collaborative, creative partners in a lot of ways. We discuss creativity. It's a lot of fun, the discussion. I hope you really enjoy it. It's just me and Sally Rose this week. Claire and Grady will be back, I promise you. But this year we're opening up with a banger of an episode, so I really hope you enjoy it. Today's episode is brought to you by Nervous Butterflies. Feeling those nervous butterflies? Embrace them. Whether it's a big presentation or a first date, or stepping out of your comfort zone, those butterflies can be your best friend. Turn that anxious energy into excitement. Join our workshop, Embrace the Butterflies, and learn to channel your nerves into confidence. Visit enjoyyourbutterflies.com to sign up today and let those nerves take flight. Enjoy your butterflies, where nerves meet excitement. For some reason, I'm not getting anything here. Oh, it's because the gain is way down because I gave this equipment to somebody. There we go. Now it's nice and high. It's giving a little like extra pepper to your sound. So I think if you talk into there, you should be fine.
All right, I'm talking. Am I fine?
I think so. The soothing tones.
The
People,
dulcet tones.
the dulcet tones. I don't think you recognize that voice, although you should, because she's.
It's the voice of Jesus.
It is the voice of Jesus.
I am.
Although no one came and saw it, so I don't know that they would recognize.
For the few people who did.
Yeah.
It's me, Jesus Christ.
Welcome to the Last Will podcast. It's me. I'm back. This is our first episode back. I think this is going to air in the new year. I don't think we're going to get it up before, even though it's before 2025. My friend is here, and I haven't seen her in a while, and I'm so happy that she's here. Welcome, Sally Rose.
Thank you so much. I'm smiling, by the way.
Yes, you can't see that, but she is smiling. I don't know. I don't even know how I put our relationship. We're artistic. We're an artistic couple sometimes.
We're collaborators.
Yes, we are. We're definitely collaborators.
Who argue.
Which is part of it, right?
Absolutely.
I hope that after the last experience we had together that we're going to be better at arguing. I'm going to be better at arguing. Arguing? Talking through ideas? I don't know. Anyways, the whole point is whenever I have a creative idea, I always run it through Sally Rose like a rapier. You've been run through.
So violent.
I know, right?
I love it.
And we discuss things, and there are times where I will get late night texts from Sally Rose going, "What if we did Romeo and Juliet like this?" And I go,
To be fair, though, I was on fire that night. I was
Yes.
walking on the treadmill at the gym, and I was struck. I was listening to some amazing music, and I saw the play in my head.
there is sometimes nothing better than the creativity that comes from listening to music.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's why I struggle to sit in silence, because I know I could be listening to something wonderful that will spark a new idea.
Right, that'll give you some sort of inspiration.
Or something that will make me truly, deeply so sad, and then I'll be able to have an emotional reaction, which I also love.
I think in my life, I don't think I accepted the melancholy in me as much as once we became friends.
Mm.
And I think that you helped me realize that being sad sometimes is just part of life, you know, and that there's something beautiful in that sadness. And so I've accepted it a lot more in myself, which look, anybody who's listening to this podcast knows that I could deal with shame.
Well, okay, so I don't feel a lot of shame in my life,
Right.
but I do feel melancholy on almost like a holy level, like it is spiritual for me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't destroy me. In fact, I think, to what you were saying, like, it offers a really unique lens from which to view the world.
I agree. And I think that's probably the most articulate way to put it that I didn't do, which is the idea of being melancholy is totally lost my thought. Forget. Let's just start over.
That.
Could you re-articulate yourself for a second?
Gosh, I guess it would just be that my trend towards melancholy is the thing that opens up ideas and, lets me see things differently, I think, than other people. So when I'm listening to a great song at the gym, I'll cry on the treadmill.
Right. And that won't be an embarrassment for you.
Not at all.
That's like a spiritual experience. I think like the simplicity of what I was going to say in response to what you said was, I had never experienced that. Sadness was always something that I thought that I should experience by myself in a corner and not let anybody see what it was.
Right.
And that was shameful and certainly not manly, but then I got to a point, certainly after my sister died, where, tears were abundant all the time. I couldn't get away from them. And so I didn't really even have a choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I could hide
You're
my
forced
sadness.
into it.
Yes, I was. Interestingly, too, because that's around the time that I met you.
Yes, actually.
And I remember
Yep.
having a conversation with your mother after the show that we were in.
Everyone always remembers my mother.
Well, I remember your father, too. And your sister. I knew your sister before you.
That's right.
But I remember over a huge chicken parm, whatever restaurant we were at, I ordered chicken parm. It was huge. It was the size of a serving tray.
That's amazing.
That's how big it was. And I just remember having a conversation about my sister with your mom, and it was like the first time that we ever met. And it was just an emotional conversation, and it was like me starting to go into this renaissance of sadness that I was having.
Renaissance of Sadness, my next book.
So creatively, Sally Rose and I have done a lot of work together. We always tend to work through thoughts with each other. When I was doing Midsummer Night's Dream, I know we had a lot of conversations about how that was going to work because we were turning it into a musical. You were the first one who sent me Eurydice, and then somehow we manifested that to happen.
We did.
Which was pretty crazy. Curious Incident certainly would not have been the same without our collaboration. Certainly times your frustration in finding your place within that forced us all to find something, discover something, which at the core is always what I'm looking for in a creative experience. Yeah. So I think very fondly of you. I think you know that, though.
Oh, thank you.
So the other thing that Sally Rose and I have in common is we are in love with the moon.
That's true.
It is one of our great loves.
One of.
For sure. So I thought,
The most reliable love.
oh, for certain, for certain. I thought that it would be fun if our topic for today was the idea of great loves. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the great loves in like fiction, mythology, movies, TV, stuff like that, things that we connect to. Obviously, Eurydice and Orpheus are going to come up because that's the one we spent the most time with.
That's true.
Most recently. So this is the way we always start off. We always do a definition.
Okay.
So let's start off with a
Is
definition.
there
Also,
a definition for great love in
it kind
Merriam-Webster?
of. It kind of. Also, we wanted to do like love and positivity because we're starting the new year off.
We are.
And I don't know. There are things happening in my life right now that feel full of, I'm not going to say love, but
Exciting.
exciting
Promising.
changes. The idea of what's to come in this new year is very, I don't know. I get giddy. I don't have words for it, but
I think what you're experiencing is called liberation.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's what it is. I think, and I feel similarly that you and I have been sort of cut free of some big nets.
Yeah.
Some really strong nets, and we're swimming out.
Heavy
We're getting
weights
out of
that
the
have
nets.
been trying to drown us and stuff like that. And now no more drowning.
And we're not looking back.
No. I am so excited to look forward. One of the things that one of the things that this podcast has always been about is about being seen. And I feel very seen by this new person in my
Perhaps
life.
in this case, very heard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, here. I get what you did. So there's something about that giddiness in me, that positivity in me that I want to start our new year off.
I love that.
Yeah. And so with that being said, we're going to talk about great love. The definition of great love generally refers to the profound, enduring emotional connection between individuals characterized by deep affection, commitment, and mutual respect. Key elements often associated with great love include intimacy, passion, trust, commitment, respect, growth, sacrifice. Great love often transcends challenges and hardships, embodying a sense of connection that can endure over time and across circumstances.
Across circumstances.
Right?
Come on.
So let's start off with the myths, right? Because we're steeped in that.
Sure.
You have a new, I was going to say furball. You have a new animal in your life, a new pet,
That's true.
and you have named your pet. Can we say the name over the radio?
Why
radio?
not?
Podcast, whatever this is.
Her name is Persephone.
Okay. Right
but
there.
sometimes she goes by Pudge because she is one. She is a Pudge.
She's got that round face.
She does.
That nice round face.
She's got the round body.
So let's talk about Hades and Persephone, right?
Yeah.
So we should get Sawyer in here because he's the one who knows all of the stories about these myths. But Demeter was Persephone's mother. Is that, if I'm correct? And Hades just decided to steal Persephone
He saw her.
and said, "I want her."
Yeah.
And then took Persephone, and Demeter, in sadness, created winter. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what
Yeah,
happened?
right. Desolation just comes out of her loss.
Right. So, in order to get the seasons back, Hades had to make
Relinquish.
he made a deal with Demeter, right? Or with Zeus.
Maybe he made the deal with Persephone herself. Who's to say?
Okay.
I mean, I think our very fast version of it leaves a lot out of what could have been.
Right. So we're talking about sacrifice right out of the gate.
Sure.
Talking about love at first sight. Does great love
Has that ever happened to you?
love at first sight?
Mm-hmm.
I think way too much. I don't know if you could call it love, but I think throughout my life I may have fallen
It has happened to me twice.
Oh, yeah? Has
And
it ever been realized?
in both cases.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
on.
Well, also, I should mention in both cases, it's blown up dramatically and
Well,
caused a lot of pain and,
Right,
and
right.
strife. But absolutely. I've experienced, like looking across a room and seeing that person.
now, was it like 90s or 2000s, an aughts rom-com where it was a party and everybody was mingling and...
In both cases, actually, there were a lot of other people around.
I mean, there has to be, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, like the Red Sea splits a little bit of people,
And
you
I'm
see
Moses?
the person. Yes, you were Moses, and the and that person is the land of Canaan. No, where were they getting? They were just getting out of Egypt.
Yes.
So they both blew up spectacularly.
Yeah, but I can remember in both cases the eye contact
Yeah,
and the feeling and
and you guys like locked in like a tractor beam, the two of you.
yeah. And I know what I want pretty
Yeah,
well. I can read
you're like
myself.
a Terminator monster. You've got a list of things come up in your whatever your
But
HUD.
to be fair, in both cases, both of those people at the time turned out to be what I wanted them to be.
Right.
They were kind and generous and talented and cool, understanding, thoughtful.
Yeah. And so it worked.
It worked
It worked
For a
for what it
time.
was. No, yeah.
for a time.
Always for a time. Look, I mean, this my new connection.
Which is so exciting.
It's unbelievable. Butterflies. That's what we
I
talk.
think
We talk
about-
often about butterflies.
I think about your new connection maybe 5 times a day
Really?
in my own life. Just makes me happy, makes me smile.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the type of care we have for each other. That my new connection can give you joy.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely when I first saw her was like hubba hubba.
Yeah.
There
Isn't
was-
that
there
such
was
a good
something-
feeling?
There were flutters
Yeah.
inside me, and it's the first time in my life that it's been actualized. Like I've had crushes in the past throughout my whole life, some that I couldn't get over for years, especially like when I was in high school, and never realized. So, 5 times a day, huh? Nice. Okay, so Persephone and Hades.
Getting back to that.
Just the idea of love sacrifice. He has to give up Persephone each spring in order to have her even for a little bit. I guess that's considered a great love because of that huge sacrifice.
I
We
mean-
talk about the category that it comes under.
I don't know that there can be any great love without loss. I think that's part of it.
Wow.
I know, so poetic.
No, it really is. And for whatever reason, in thinking about doing the subject, I never really wrapped my head around the simplicity of that. There has to be loss in order to appreciate what that.
I mean, I think for both of us, we share a similar story in that the person we loved most in the world isn't here.
Yeah.
One of those people.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we love abundantly, but and that was also something that connected us early on because you spoke to me about your dad and what I heard in your words and what I've always heard in your words. We've talked about him a lot.
Yeah.
Is, a lot of my feelings for my grandfather.
Yeah.
And there is a timelessness to that love, and there is certainly a timelessness to that loss, right? We feel it deeply whenever we think about those men.
Yeah.
And we're also extremely lucky to have had them.
Yeah.
And I guess, as I'm getting older, one of the things that comforts me actually is that in the loves that I have lost, there are lessons and there are moments that I treasure, and those are mine.
Yeah.
And I can remember them really clearly, and I remember the feeling, and that's very special to me.
I just articulated the other day to my new friend.
Friend.
Yeah. Queen of Butterflies.
That's an awesome title.
We're trying out nicknames. I articulated the idea, and I probably have said this to you before too, is immortality. Like, I believe in immortality in the sense of, like, you get to know my father through the person that I become. My kids get to know my father based upon the experiences that I had with him.
Mm-hmm.
They get to know my sister based upon how they have influenced my life. And those, to me, are very, very beautiful. But it's so interesting, and we can just jump to Eurydice and Orpheus right from this, because one of the, not big arguments, but one of the disagreements that you and I had out of the gate was, I found great understanding and power in the idea of grief being in transit.
Right.
You know,
I
of
remember this.
being in a place of, I'm not home, I'm not on vacation, I'm in the middle, and I'm not sure. I want to bawl my eyes out, I want to hide under the covers, and yet I have a job and I have to go into the world, and so I'm in between where I really want to be. I'm not better, because I'm still constantly thinking about the hurt, and I can't totally, like, let myself go, because, you know, we have responsibilities in life. And you had said, well, what if you entertain the idea of it being, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't remember exactly what you said, but like a beautiful joy. Like, what if it was powerful? What if it was grief being a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure. Look, you could talk about your experience on that side of that discussion. For me, I was like, okay, I'm going to think about it, and I did, and I tried to find in my grief where I felt like it was positive, where I felt like I was, not enjoying it, but where I thought it was this gift of positivity. And I think that it was really hard for me because I almost sectioned off my grief,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about what the first 3 months, the first year, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could remember was pain
Yeah.
and an inability to let my vulnerability out, and an aloneness. And so my experience within the immediate dealing of grief didn't have any of that, so I couldn't see it, you know? In retrospect now, of course I see it.
Mm-hmm.
What I just explained, the idea of the immortality, which eventually came to me, is so beautiful. But I couldn't see it. I felt like I tried to, but I couldn't see it because I sectioned off what I gave myself a time limit or something. Even
Crazy.
Not even like thinking about, I'm just thinking about the first year or whatever it is, because
Right.
grief doesn't end. It just gets different,
Right.
you know?
Well, I think one of the things, you know, to get back to that sort of initial conversation we had is you really believed that grief was this waiting room. It was transience. It was change, but perhaps not clear change. And I really considered it to be a rootedness,
Yeah.
a tether.
Yeah.
Because for me, grief has always been something I could very clearly identify and articulate. I
Yeah.
have no problem, especially telling you when I'm deeply sad about something.
Right.
And I think that's because of the way I was raised, but also I feel sadness and grief with immense clarity. Like, I know I'm hurting.
Right.
And I'm even just thinking, you know, backstage in some of the shows we did way before Eurydice, the conversations we would have about certain people in our lives. I'm not talking about your dad or my grandfather, but like romantic interests or
Right.
partners, like how to reckon with grief that came out of what once was really positive and loving
Right.
and exciting. And I think you and I both crave that excitement. And so when we can channel some of that toward our art, toward the plays we make, that's when we do our best work, which is like, where is the energy in this feeling, and how can we use it?
Right.
Because we got to use it.
Yeah.
It would be a disservice not to use it in our favor.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think we would explode.
I know. I think we would too.
I have always felt, and I've said this before, I've always felt the most comfortable within the art, working on a show, to be the most vulnerable version of myself. And I hadn't figured that out in life. I think I'm better now. I wonder what it is, though, too. I don't think it's a male-female thing, because at times I would definitely say that I was more feminine and you were more masculine.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. You know what I think it means? I think it means stereotypical, like from when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Like I see you as tough, and I see myself like less tough at
Less
times.
tough. Yeah, but I mean, like that toughness, that wall makes me sad sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that too, like the result of a really tough breakup or loss or disappointment, right, for me often resembles like my walls being built higher.
Yeah.
Which I think in some ways really closes me off to opportunities and people in my life. But when we're working on a play, when we're talking about design, or when we're working through a tough scene, there's a required vulnerability to do the type of work we want to do.
Right.
And it's like the most free I feel is when I'm working on a play.
Yeah. Because you have zero, all of those walls go down.
Yeah.
When you are acting.
Yeah.
It's pretty magnificent to watch. Eurydice being one of those things that I don't think people understood. What you made look very easy was not very easy. And the way that play ended was really like, I don't know, some of the best acting I've ever been witness to. And it wasn't easy. It was tall grass. It was really, really tall grass. But your vulnerability was like at the forefront of it, which was just really beautiful to witness. I wish more people had seen it.
I don't. I think the right people saw it.
Well, there you go. And our buddy Tim came twice. So.
That's true. We love Tim. I mean, honestly, though, all of this, talking about the myths, talking about our own process, it's so much related to storytelling and good language. And Eurydice is a really prime example of a play that for me is stuck in my brain for years because of how well constructed and well written it is.
Yeah.
And it's not because Sarah Rule gives you the directions. I mean, she gives you some directions, right? Orpheus throws Eurydice into the sky. It rains peaches and plums. Okay.
Right.
But
we'll make that happen.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. I've never seen or been in a production where I've actually seen peaches and plums fall from the sky. One day.
Her writing definitely made me feel like, and listening to interviews with her, like, just go for it.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick it up. Contend with it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
I mean, we physicalized the whole first scene of that play because the dialogue felt very...
It didn't suit us.
Yeah.
I think it could have been right for another cast.
Yes.
But for us, I don't know. We didn't. It's not that we didn't need it, because we did need that scene, but we just translated it.
Yeah. I had an idea. I don't know if you remember this, but I had an idea at one point, and I don't know that I could have ever figured out how to do it, but I wanted that whole first scene of the play to be the life of a relationship.
I remember that.
Yeah. And it was an idea, and it felt like there was something in it, but I couldn't figure out how to communicate that whole thing to you, and how it could work. I mean, I think you could have, if we kept at it, I think you could have done it. We'll see about whatever.
The next time we do it.
Yeah, the next time. But there was something very, very appealing to me about the idea of seeing a life within a scene, like a full life of a great love, from the sparks to the passion to the heat of it.
But in that scene where we were dancing, moving, dancing, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I think Kelly Naden would call it dancing.
Oh my God, she's the best. It's more than dance, though. It's
storytelling. She's the best physical storyteller I know.
She's the best. She was our choreographer on that play. My dear friend Abby came to see the show. She sat very close to us on that platform, and when I spoke to her afterwards, it was the scene she could not stop talking about, was the dance between Orpheus and Eurydice. And she told me she sat there crying. She was so overcome with emotion because she'd seen it before. She'd seen what we were doing. She recognized the feeling. She enjoyed the artistry of the movement, the storytelling, the sadness, the happiness, the confusion, right? The flurry of love.
So in some ways, Kelly got that idea without me even saying it to her.
Yeah, and music helped us. Collaboration always helps us.
Yes.
It was there in a way.
Very much one of the key elements to friendship with Sally Rose is you will be blessed with music.
God, I hope so.
Yes, for sure, because you're always sending me things that I hadn't heard. So when we got to sit with Kelly, before we started.
Yeah, on the floor in my apartment.
Yeah, we were just talking about music, and we had both had different lists. We had collaborative lists. We had, at one point, we really wanted to do a Nordic Eurydice.
Oh yeah,
that
lasted
was pretty
for a
early
while.
And I still have a playlist of Nordic stuff.
Oh yeah. One day
we settled in on a piece of music that just was a beautiful
sound.
Yeah. A simple yet emotionally deep song, which was one that you knew and shared with us.
And it was a demanding song.
Yeah, it really was. I don't think I would ever articulated it that way, but it was a demanding
That song demands whatever you put to it has got to withstand the emotion in the sound.
Yeah. And I think we did.
Yeah,
I think we did. It's so interesting because I always liked it, but I don't know if I ever associated it with the life of a relationship. But it really did have all of that stuff. It makes me, just on a side note, one of the things I was most proud of with Judas Iscariot was my soundtrack. And it was all me. And as I was going through it, I just kept thinking, oh, I think Sally Rose would like this song. I think she'd like this. And it ended up working really well. I was very, 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 very proud of it. Sarah Rule, the author of Eurydice, makes me not really an Orpheus fan.
I had no idea.
I think I came into it. Now, look, everybody who's, for those of you who don't know, and I think most people do, Hadestown is the same tale, more based upon the Greek telling of it, which puts Orpheus at the head of the story as opposed to Eurydice. Eurydice, titled the right way, is the story from her point of view. And I think because that was my first real experience with this myth, I think of him less kindly, I guess. And then we recently had a Netflix show, which they canceled because Netflix's Boo, a show called Chaos, where Jeff Goldblum is Zeus. I mean, it's like the perfect
Wait, they canceled that?
I'm sorry, you're just hearing it.
I had no idea. That show is so good.
Yeah, they're not doing a second season.
It was so adventurous and exciting.
Right?
I loved it.
I don't understand why they're not.
Wow, that's really too bad.
It's very bad. I felt very vindicated watching Chaos and their version of Orpheus and Eurydice. I felt like they were at the end of their relationship and Eurydice was just ready to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers. She gets hit by a bus. or something. She gets hit by
Something horrible.
like in the first episode, and I was surprised. Like I don't know how it got past me. The whole myth is that she dies and goes into the underworld, right? And then Orpheus has to go and try to get her out of the underworld. I was shocked that she died. I don't know how they did that.
You know what wasn't shocking though? Their Orpheus was a rock star.
Not surprising at all.
No.
Not surprising at all.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we had the skinny jeans for it, but we didn't. I don't know. I kept saying that over and over again. I felt very, very, very seen, and I think there was at one point you texted me like saying the same thing. I don't know if it was like 7 or 8 episodes in, but I feel like this show got exactly what I was trying to say, which is that he is desperately hanging on to her, but she has moved on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that first scene of the play, she's kind of saying that, even though she's accepting his marriage proposal,
Mm-hmm.
probably because she thinks it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and to be fair, I think she does love him.
Yeah.
But, love can change, obviously. And gosh, sometimes the thought of, separating from someone is really, really scary, because where does it leave you? You have that question of like, what do I do next? Will I ever be loved the same way again? And because she doesn't articulate that, her desire for something else to him, the play then becomes her journey of figuring that out.
Yeah. Also, like, you can't help but you can't ignore the idea of the myth. It's Orpheus and Eurydice. They're together in it. Romeo and Juliet are together on it. Even though there's a play now called And Juliet, which is just about her. For the most part, we associate these two together, and I think you can kind of play on that. I think Sarah Rule is definitely playing on the fact that they're a thing until they're not a thing, and then there's cost to that.
Yeah.
And I think for her, like you're saying, she's on a journey of like finding herself finally in death.
Yeah, and what I admire about her, and I think what I relate to so strongly, is that even when she's making the decision to be without him, without Orpheus, she is still loving him.
Yeah.
In her final monologue to my husband's next wife, sees a positive future for him, is advice for that next person who's going to love him. And that, oh my God, that is so real. That comes from her knowledge of Orpheus,
Right.
And her care and her deep consideration for this other human who, even though she's leaving, there is still, to our dictionary definition, mutual respect and dignity and affection and, and knowledge of another human being, deep knowledge. And that's how she shows her love by the end of the play. It's not marriage. It's not coming back to life. It's this parting note for the future.
That's great love.
That's great love.
Yeah. I think we forget about that too. We think that it has to last forever.
Right.
And I guess for Eurydice, it will last forever, but it obviously it's shifted.
Right.
It's about teaching us about love as well.
It's the opposite of narcissism.
Yes. Isn't that? Oh my God. Let's just sit with that for a second.
Yeah, please.
Let's just talk about the dead elephant in the room.
Our pre-show talk.
Yeah. The 800-pound gorilla. All right. So that wraps that up pretty nicely.
It does.
Let's jump to the most famous of all is Romeo and Juliet, which you and I have had a lot of discussions about.
So many conversations.
Yeah. Look, the idea of Romeo and Juliet to people outside of the know, whatever that means, is the great love of all time. Romeo is the great lover or whatever. But that's just not true. in the play. He is in love with Rosalind until he meets Juliet, and then he is in love with Juliet. So it's like love at first sight, and it's like kids. It's puppy love.
Yeah.
You know? They are... sorry, my mic is on. Did you hear that?
It was hard to watch.
Oh, did I strangle it? They are, it's just puppy love, right? And they are victims of a circumstance that they don't even really know of. They just know that there's this huge rivalry between the families and stuff like that. And then puppy love gets in the way, and then they meet a friar who makes a lot of bad decisions, and they decide to make even worse decisions, and it leads to their death.
But here's the
whatever.
thing. So I don't know if I agree with you that it's puppy love. I could run with that idea.
Well, when does it switch? It's hard to argue for the beginning, but I think it changes.
Well,
obviously
so
it evolves.
If we're going to call it puppy love, which we could do for like the process.
Yeah.
I wouldn't belittle puppy love for being any less emotionally powerful than another form of love.
No, I absolutely agree. Like the love that my 17-year-old self felt was as deep as could be. I mean, it was as real to me at that time.
Yeah. I actually wish I still felt that way, that I had the capacity to feel puppy love for people, for like my romantic interests.
Yeah.
Because I don't anymore. That got beaten out of me
Sorry.
somewhere in my early
I'm so
20s.
sorry.
But like that sort of giggly obsession, that happiness, the dopamine rush in your brain, I remember it.
Yeah.
I don't judge myself for feeling it. In fact, I think it's something to be celebrated. And I do hope that it's something you might be feeling right now. That sort of like...
The amount of times that we've talked about how happy my 17-year-old self is.
Yeah.
And that my 17-year-old self always believed that this feeling could happen.
Yeah.
And that I haven't felt it. And so it's come up so many times.
Yeah.
That's why she's the queen of butterflies.
Right.
You know?
But that's why it's so precious.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So like, so puppy love, sure, maybe not how I would phrase it, but like this is a prime example of how we collaborate, like talking about what lies beneath to better understand what we're dealing with and what we're looking at. I think a lot of people ascribe a sort of sacred quality to Romeo and Juliet, to all of Shakespeare, but particularly Romeo and Juliet. Like, oh, this one line defines me, or this scene is all. And I don't think that's true. I think, the spirit of the play is what captures our attention and our hearts.
Okay.
But within it, like, you can really mess with how love looks and how they treat each other and their discoveries. Like, you can mess with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And you still walk out of Romeo and Juliet feeling, you might feel devastated, you might feel hopeful, whatever it is, you're reflecting on it. And that's why I like the play so much, because I can remember the first time I saw it too. I think I was in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And the like high school theater class did it at my school, and they used black boxes, and they were all in like robes.
Right.
And I don't know that I had the vocabulary to talk through everything I was seeing, but there was just sort of like this joy to being in love.
Yeah.
And something I respected, that I still respect of Romeo and Juliet, is like they do the thing. Like they commit to one another. They might be totally flawed, out of touch, like victims of their own circumstances, their families, but they do commit to one another.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's so much to ask in our lives, that you commit to me or I commit to you and we see it through.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that stick-to-itiveness that I find lacking in my own personal life.
Well,
often.
it's romantic. I mean,
it's hot as hell.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think
there was no ghosting
for
Romeo and Juliet.
No. There could have been a better way than sending Balthazar to send a message to Romeo and Mantua.
Of course, but then you wouldn't have the play.
That was silly. And I don't know that the friar had to give her a potion, She could have just sent her out of town.
He just wanted to be really busy and dramatic.
Yeah, he's definitely dramatic.
He wanted to have his moment.
No, but like when I think about, I did a production over at the Wilton Play Shop with students and myself and my friend Kevin, who were the mentor directors and stuff like that. That was very rich in that. And our Romeo and Juliet, I distinctly remember, it's just it was the best group of students I ever had, really. It was a couple that graduated and a couple that were just graduating. It just was the best group of kids. And I have a book, and if I showed you the book, it so reads of Romeo and Juliet. And I just remember the balcony scenes, and they're as passionate and romantic and as full of life and energy as could be. Outside of the fact that they just met, outside of the fact that he was in love with Rosalind. I mean, Romeo is obviously capable of great love. You know, he has all of this, and he wants to share it. And they do. They totally and completely commit, even though they know that there are consequences to how they commit. And then those consequences fall out.
This is why I think anyone can do the play. I think you could be Juliet at 84 years old. Anyone can do this play.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that we have the cast for it, but
I mean, I'll let you know when I meet some incredible 84-year-old
who's ready to do
who
it.
can do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could do that with Hamlet too. Hamlet doesn't have to be exactly.
No.
But I guess lately, you're gonna have to wrestle Grady for Hamlet. He's really like into it. He saw.
He can have Hamlet.
He saw. See, I have an idea. And it actually. It mirrors a little bit of Curious Incident, where there's two sides of who Hamlet is. Anyways, we can talk about that another time. Yeah, so Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. I think you articulated it better than I think I could have. So,
God, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm shutting down these conversations.
No. I mean, articulation is a good thing. What I was going to say is I think that the love changes after the murder of Mercutio, after Tybalt is dead. I think there is an opportunity to, if it was puppy love, I'm sorry I used that phrase, but now it's with us.
Here to stay.
There's an opportunity to run, and they don't run. And it's like you said, they commit themselves to each other after this tragedy, after she learns that he kills her cousin.
I mean, it's such a good analogy, though, for relationships now.
Yeah.
There's always an opportunity to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always. And I'd be lying if I said that I've never been that person. I'm sure I have.
Your metaphorical sneakers are on
lately,
and tied?
Lately, not so much.
Right.
Because it goes against who I like to think I am now.
Yeah.
But, I think running that way is a form of protection. It's also a form of weakness. Like it can be two things, it could be 10 things at once. And for them to choose to stick it out.
Yeah.
I mean, in the face of a super violent death.
Yeah.
And a consequential death speaks to the power of that puppy love.
Yeah. Ouch. I walked into that one. The power of that connection for sure.
I think it also underscores, their belief in one another's potential.
Yeah. Because I don't think it's just because they're married. They're too young to take that as the only way to commit to each other.
Yeah.
It's each other.
Right.
It's finding themselves in each other.
And why don't more people laugh when they do Romeo and Juliet?
Partly because I don't think, if you're not seeing an RSC production, Royal Shakespeare Company, you may not be getting the best of what Shakespeare could be. Yeah. It's very funny, the whole first half.
It's
until
so funny.
Until the sword fights and stuff like that. And then the second half is almost like a different play. But I don't think people think that about Hamlet either. I think people think Shakespeare, if it's not a comedy, you're not supposed to laugh, and that's just not true. Hamlet can be extremely funny, but it's also tragic.
Yeah.
Lear less so. I don't know. There's not a
Lear
ton
is
of
so complicated for me.
yeah. I do love the Lear though.
I'd love to see it done well someday.
Well,
You and I saw the most tragic production of it together.
It was so
Tragedy upon a tragedy.
It was very. I don't know if I've ever been so disappointed in the theater as I was during the first act of that
I was
version of the play.
uncomfortable. I could barely sit in my seat.
And it wasn't because the seats were uncomfortable.
No, but it was raining on us.
And didn't like that would have been fine for us.
It would have helped.
Yes.
It should have.
We saw the end of a run. So Lear had a very tired voice, but he had a tired voice because it was a film and TV star, and they had him yelling the whole time.
Yep.
And so his voice was, ugh. And then the Edmund decided to stand with his legs.
Akimbo.
Yeah, I guess akimbo would be a way to do it. When I'm trying to make myself shorter, I'll sometimes
like he was
stand
trying
like that.
to keep his balance on an 18th century ship.
That is a perfect way to put it. And it was just so greatly uncomfortable.
It was so inappropriate. For the play, for his character, the whole thing.
And they just didn't have any sense of I don't know, the text. It was anyways, we left. So, Romeo and Juliet, Orpheus Eurydice. What about when we talk about like TV and movies, like modern? Well, let's talk about TV. We'll just go through a couple of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got Jim Halpert and Pam Beesly.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
Meant to be together. Finally got together. Still entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Although in the later seasons, I don't know if you watched much of it, they were like creating problems where I didn't see problems.
I mean, that I think is just a function of the show.
And how many years it was on.
Yeah.
Ross Geller and Rachel Green.
Mm-hmm.
They have Mulder and Scully on this list. I don't know that it was.
Who was they?
It's
like a great love of TV
yes.
list. I love that.
Yeah. Would we call Mulder and Scully great love? I don't know. Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen. I don't think I'd call it great love. Probably because she was his aunt.
Yeah.
You know? Was there great love in Game of Thrones?
Yes. Yes.
I would say Jon Snow and
I was going to say Jamie and Cersei.
Oh, Jamie. There you go. All right.
Yes. And also great love between children and their parents. Winterfell. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, great love doesn't need to be between lovers, quote unquote.
Right.
But I'm like really intrigued by this idea of calling relationships now like, oh yes, like this is my lover. Like, oh, you haven't met him? Oh, that's too bad. This is my lover. I was watching it. Right. I've been watching too many TikToks about what's in and out for 2025.
Oh, is that in or is that out?
It's in.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it is in.
I had someone refer to me that way, and someone definitely thought it was cringe.
I mean, I do think it's kind of cringe, but what would happen if we just like we reclaimed it?
Right. So I've heard partner a lot. This is my partner.
Partner is so clinical, though.
Yes.
I don't know.
Buffy Summers and Angel. That was only for a couple of.
I can't even speak to that one.
Seasons. Did you not watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No.
I think you would like it. I don't know if it still holds up now that Joss Whedon's a jerk. All right, what about history? Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
Ooh, you're talking to an ancient history teacher.
Okay, Napoleon and Josephine.
Well, that is fascinating. I love reading about the two of them.
Yeah.
That was so much about lust and validation and ease. Yeah, fascinating. I also just am in love with like an epistolary romance.
Oh.
Like I'm going to write you letters.
Right.
And you're going to understand how I feel.
Well, isn't that like...
Put it down on paper. I love it. I love it.
Does that give you the same feeling when you think about John Adams and Abigail Adams writing letters?
No, it does not.
No.
But like, for instance, I picked a book off my shelf a few days ago and it had a little love letter in it from someone from a while back.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, you wrote that down for me.
Nice.
And then I proceeded to rip it up and throw it out because I've moved past it. But I read it and I felt very satisfied. And then I thought, okay, I'm a different person now. I don't need this. But I liked reading it again.
Yeah, I could imagine. I'm surprised you didn't burn it, though. That feels so much more ritual.
It does, but I was in my bedroom and not trying to light the house on fire.
Well, whatever. Obviously, you're not committed to ritual.
I'm a Girl Scout. I care about fire safety.
That's true. Can't ignore that. I have a whole box of letters. Is it a box? No, I found them, but I don't know that any of them are real. They're like friendship letters because I'm old enough that we did that. We wrote letters back and forth, and I definitely have one. A series of them from a crush that I had that I wrote her letters in high school. I think it was a sophomore and she was a senior.
Oh.
And it was nice of her to write. She didn't have to write back.
But she did.
Yeah, she did.
Ooh.
It was nice, but it wasn't, whatever. John Lennon and Yoko Ono. I mean, we could blame her for breaking up the Beatles, but I don't think that really happened. I think that was more John. Let's give Yoko a break. Great loves. All right, movies. Jack Dawson and Rose DeWitt.
Oh. Back on the
Bukater?
subject of something like that. Back on the subject of sacrifice.
Yeah, Jack and Rose. It was great love for her in her life, but was it more of an escape from a life that she was clearly running from?
I don't know, but in either case, it galvanized her.
It certainly did.
Went on to shape what she did next. I mean, I don't think we need to talk about great loves from movies or TV because we have our own. And I think that's why this conversation is so interesting, because you and I, throughout this, we've been using our own personal experiences to talk about all of these subjects.
Right. Well, I mean, that really is the way the podcast goes.
I know.
We start with something. Yeah. So what is it? I was going to say, what is it that you look for, or what are the common themes, if we're just talking about ourselves and the great loves of your life that you think, or that you hope for now? What are there common things?
I'm drawn towards spontaneity, sense of adventure, candor. I don't need to spend every minute with my person.
Right.
I don't even need to live with that person. We don't even need to live in the same area. Like, what? I don't know. I'm what?
Just come a little closer to the mic.
I'm sorry. I'm
That's all right.
away as I'm talking.
No,
about
you're
my
just being, you're
personal
so
life.
casual.
I guess there's just like mutual respect and the space to let the other person grow while you grow, and an investment in growing at the same time. Right? Like, that is love to me.
Yeah. And good kisses. I mean,
I don't mess around. So.
I don't
Ain't nobody got time
around.
for bad kisses. I also love a good hug.
Yes.
Good deep hug.
Good.
Handhold, walking down the street.
Yep.
Light me up.
Sometimes there's no better way to describe it than it just feels right.
Yeah.
And when you get that, it brings you back to that 17-year-old self, that those butterflies. Yes, I got noisy neighbors upstairs, and
Well, the lights were flickering as you were talking about that, and I was like, "Ooh, someone's
magic.
listening."
No, it's just the stomping of the upstairs neighbors, unfortunately. For me, it's definitely about sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's got to be funny.
I mean, if you're not funny, I can't even be your friend.
Right. Well, there you go. You're not even get friendship.
Yeah. Please.
You're out.
Out for 2025 people without a sense of humor.
or it's people who think they're funny but don't know how to make jokes.
Devastating.
I very much want to feel seen, and I want the feeling of care, and that they're rooting for me to be. Oh, excuse me.
Did you just burp?
I did.
My God.
I'm sorry.
We're accessing something deep within you.
It is, right?
It was an endearing burp.
Thank you. It. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's care and like genuine wanting, rooting for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no matter what your hobbies, whatever you're into, just wanting to see that person do well. I can't think of a better way to say it.
Yeah.
But like those are like at the cornerstone of what feels like could be great love.
I also think what has been great for me in relationships is a partner who is exceptionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And has the ability to speak about their emotions, their hopes, what they do every day, and that they want to do more.
Yeah.
Right? That like the buck doesn't stop there.
Right.
It's not all about them. And like we can read the New York Times in silence together and then talk about an article. I know that sounds boring, but that to me is like.
But that's very stimulating.
Yeah, a thought partner.
Yeah.
Thought partner. And then I think, when you find someone who has that quality, you don't even have to like the same things. You just have to be able to talk about them.
Right. And somebody else is passionate about something is very attractive.
Well, we love passion.
Yes. It's a language that we understand and speak. So, what else is there to say? How many couples did we get to? We kind of danced around Hades and Persephone's, but really we talked about Orpheus and Eurydice and Romeo and Juliet. Those are really the ones that, like at the core. I think I had a list of 30 different ones, but it doesn't matter. We talked
about ourselves.
But that's it. I mean, that's all you can. That's what this podcast ends up being. It's how we relate to it. That's what I always wanted to try to do. We choose a subject, and then it's how we're relating to it. So it's just a spark, and there's nobody better to talk about this type of stuff with than you. You're like one of my most passionate friends, and I love creating with you. And so for you to be here and us to be able to talk about romance really and great love and share our ideas about it means the world to me.
Well,
obviously.
Likewise. I do think, one thing we didn't touch on just before we hang up, I don't know, turn the mics off, is like we are not without our flaws.
Oh.
As human beings, but like certainly you and I, we have flaws.
Yes.
Right? And like we've made mistakes, and I'm really, for me right now in my life, doing my best to own them and make them right.
Right.
I'm imperfect, but I believe in that pursuit. And I think that is another form of love that we give to ourselves that is important to the work that we do, which is this acknowledgement that like I'm an imperfect human. I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to change. But at the end of the day, like when I go rest my head on my pillow to sleep, am I full of regret from what I did that day, or am I thinking about what I can do better the next time and looking forward?
Yeah.
And that is a generosity that we can give to one another and certainly use to guide our collaborations.
Yeah.
That is really beautiful. And so for me, like that's one of the things I love about our work, because one of the first things I said is like, oh yeah, our arguments, we argue.
Yeah.
And we've had tough spots, but I think we've always emerged out of them with like a better sense of ourselves, and then B, a mutual respect for the other person, which is like, okay, my friend is not perfect, but I'm committed to finding a way to fix it and move on to the next great thing.
Yeah.
And that's great love.
Yeah, for sure.
And, we've heard comments from other people in our lives about the two of us and our work together. And I think sometimes it comes across as threatening because we have a sort of dialogue that doesn't always require words.
Right.
But nonetheless, like it hasn't been easily won.
No,
but
not
it's
at all.
what enriches what we make.
You know what I would say though? Why did I phrase it like that?
I
That
don't
means
know.
like I'm totally dismissing everything before. No,
Yes, and
yes, I think trust was at the beginning of our collaboration. Trust was created, and it didn't feel like work.
right.
And I think at the foundation of our like creative relationship, that was so easy, and that's what I think made it possible to take risks and push and argue, for lack of a better thing, but to have different ideas and stuff like that.
And game recognizes game.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, come on.
You were so good in that first production. It was really fun. In that first production that we worked together, my goal was enjoying watching you perform and then trying to make you laugh.
And my goal was not laughing while you shoved an entire cupcake into your mouth.
Well, we can blame your mom for that.
We can.
Yeah, she brought food, and I decided my character was going to eat all the time. It worked.
It was hilarious.
Thank you for joining me. There was something else that I was going to say based upon what you were talking about. Oh, the idea of great love being for oneself is a new concept that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been a long road in being able to love myself, to accept the fact that my imperfections are attractive qualities, my vulnerability, my flaws, the things that I think of as my flaws are things that make me who I am. And it parallels the idea of finding out that I was dyslexic and then thinking about, oh, this makes me angry and why didn't I get help? But it made me the performer that I am.
Mm-hmm.
It made me creatively the way I am. And would I sacrifice that for anything? No, I wouldn't. And like when I think about that compared to how I see myself and loving myself, why aren't they the same? They should absolutely be the same. Like my flaw in being dyslexic makes me a very valuable performer in my mind. So why can all these other things be the same thing? And I'm learning and I'm getting better at it. And so I do think you're absolutely right. Great love for self is something that is just as important. And I'm getting there. But I have great love for you. I
Likewise.
think you know that. Thanks for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
That's weird. We're not talking about resolutions. Bullshit. This would be the part where Grady farts into the microphone. All right. Bye. So that was it. That was our episode on The Greatest Love. And as you can see, we didn't get very far. We talked about Romeo and Juliet, and of course, Eurydice and Orpheus. We did a little bit on Hades and Persephone. So all of the other huge list of great loves that I have didn't get talked about at all, but that just means we can come back to it. I think love is such a huge subject that we will revisit it. Oh, we did talk about our love for the moon as well, but that's Sally Rose, and I've been trying to get her on the podcast for a while, and I hope you enjoyed our conversation. I always enjoy my conversations with her, whether they're creative or they're about life. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. We can be found at the Last Will podcast on Instagram, and I believe it is Matt Young at thelastwillpodcast.com if you want to send me an email or something like that. I hope you enjoyed our rewind episodes, but it's really nice to get back into the saddle. So thanks for listening. Onward, forward.